Gilbertson, and I want to thank you for purchasing these screencasts. In this series of videos, I'm going to take you beyond the nuts and bolts of responsive design that I cover in the book and show you the practical day-to-day tools and workflows that will change the way you work and help smooth your transition from web developer to responsive web developer. I'll assume you've already read the book and have a good understanding of not just what responsive design entails, but why it makes sense for your projects. Now it's time to learn how to become responsive, learn new workflows and new tools and new ways of thinking. Don't worry though, none of this stuff is any more difficult than anything you already know how to do. It's just different. Whenever I hear people complaining about how much extra work responsive design entails, I can't help but wonder how much of their extra work is a result of using the wrong tools and the wrong workflows. When you're first getting started, responsive design can feel like a square peg that you've got to fit into the round workflow you're accustomed to. That's a recipe for frustration. You can't build responsive websites without adapting your workflow to the challenges unique to responsive design. If your current workflow looks anything like mine used to, you probably start most of your design work in a graphics editor like Illustrator or Photoshop. Some people will tell you that you shouldn't use these tools. I disagree. I think you should use them if you're comfortable with them. I just think you should use them a bit differently than you probably are now, and a bit later in the design process. The problem with Photoshop or Illustrator and responsive design is that responsive websites aren't static. There are typically major breakpoints where you'll want to adjust your designs, but you won't know where those breakpoints are until later in the design process. Again, there's nothing wrong with Photoshop, but it's not the best tool for developing responsive websites. Why? Photoshop has a fixed canvas size. The web has an infinitely flexible canvas. Responsive design, if it means nothing else, means embracing that flexible canvas, and you can't do that when you're working in a graphics editor. The web browser is the only tool I know of that offers the same fluid, flexible canvas of the web. If you want to simplify and optimize your responsive workflow, the place to work is in the browser. If you try to mock up everything about your responsive designs in Photoshop, you're going to do 10 times the amount of work you need to do. You're going to be one of the people who complains that responsive design is too much work. If you're building responsive websites and you're not working directly with the code in the web browser, you're wasting time and energy using the wrong tool for the job. Developing in the browser means working with the web rather than against it, and that's the first step toward a simpler, faster, responsive workflow. For a long time, I ignored the advice to design in the browser because often the people giving it stopped with the advice. Go design in the browser, it's awesome, and unicorns and stuff. Whereas I would sit there thinking, okay, but what does that mean, designing in the browser? And then I would just go back to working in Photoshop because that's what I knew how to do. Designing directly in the browser makes sense at a theoretical level, but what does it mean in practical terms? What does this workflow look like, and where do you start? That's what this series of videos is designed to do, to teach you new workflows and showcase some of the new tools that will help transition you to the responsive future. I'm going to outline how I finally figured out I could save tremendous time and effort working directly in the browser, rather than prototyping everything in a graphics editor. I'm going to share my workflow in hopes that it will prove useful to you, but remember, this is just my workflow. It's not the workflow by any means. Whether you're part of a small team, a large team, or working on your own, you have your own idiosyncrasies and tics to consider. A good workflow will work with, not against you. I can't tell you how you should work. I can, however, tell you how I work, and hopefully that will give you some ideas you can test in your own workflow. Take what you need, skip what you don't. So what does developing in the browser entail? Well, first we need a good web browser, and we need to learn how to use it. To help you do that, there are 3 videos on using Google Chrome to write and edit everything from HTML to Sass right in the browser. I'll show you how to set up everything so that you write a line of code and the browser instantly responds, showing you your changes. That kind of immediate feedback is going to save you hours, even days in the long run. I've also included a screencast on how to do the same things in Firefox for those who prefer to work in Mozilla's browser. The second part of this series is the 3 screencasts on a plain text workflow. In these videos, I walk you through the basics of using plain text. The web is, after all, primarily plain text wrapped in HTML tags to develop websites. I'll show you how you can take your client's content, first convert it to text, and then quickly mark it up using Markdown and Pandoc to generate HTML files. Then we'll look at ways you can move from those static, mostly structural HTML mockups to annotated wireframes, pattern libraries, and eventually production code being served by content management systems. The third part of the series looks at how you can speed up your websites and optimize them for mobile devices. I've also included detailed screencasts covering a few of my favorite responsive design ideas, like setting a performance budget and using analytics to evaluate your site's mobile traffic. There are also screencasts dedicated to useful tools like Sizer Soze and Browser Sync.
Ready to learn more? Pick up a copy of the complete package or developer package and get started today. If you have any questions, always feel free to email me, scott@longhandpixels.net. Thanks for watching and have a great day.